Tell Us About Yourself, Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, one of the largest history museums in the United States, and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.
Blue 35.
Hi, I'm Christian Carrion. A couple weeks ago, my best friend and co-executive producer Cory Anotado and I had the time of our lives in Washington, D.C. at SporkleCon, the largest trivia convention in North America. We met so many friends, new friends and old. We watched a bunch of rare game shows. We played quizzes, and one of my favorite experiences, probably my favorite experience, was recording our first ever live episode of Tell Us About Yourself in front of an audience. And I was apprehensive going into it because this is a very intimate process for me. I've never had anybody see me record a podcast before. So going into it, I was a bit nervous that the intimacy of the conversation wouldn't come through, that it would be kind of stunted and sound sort of rehearsed because we're clearly in front of people. But it turned out to be this incredible, sprawling, vulnerable, fun, funny, informative conversation with Victoria Gross, one of the stars of The Chase on ABC, a show that I have a bit of experience with. It was a wonderful time. We're waiting for the audio to get sent to us, and once that comes in, I'm going to edit it, and it'll be out hopefully next Saturday. In the meantime, I thought I would take an opportunity to revisit something I did a couple years ago that I don't know a lot of ears got put on. You know what I mean? I don't know if a lot of people heard this, but I'll give you a bit of context info. Back in 2020, I was laid off from my job in hospitality. I was the assistant front desk manager at a hotel, and COVID just knocked out hospitality for months, if not years. I mean, it's just now coming back to where it was in 2023. But in March of 2020, my future in that particular industry was a bit uncertain, and I was sent home. There wasn't any work to do because everybody was canceling their reservations. There was no front desk to manage, and so I was home. And I took that opportunity, and I've mentioned this in other interviews, but I took that opportunity to become the broadcaster that I wanted to be on my own terms. I just sensed an opportunity to do, for lack of a better phrase, do what the hell I wanted to do. So I went out and bought a microphone, and I bought some soundproof foam, and I turned my upstairs coat closet into a studio. And I had this idea, you know, we were in this era of social distancing and the idea that everybody was home and lacking social contact. Something about all of that appealed to me. And I said, I wonder if I could start a podcast where all I'm doing is having conversations with people. All I'm doing is, you know, the first word of every episode is hello. And we'll just talk about, and it's an idea that everyone who starts a podcast says they want to do. We'll talk about whatever we want. But that was my goal. I put out an ad on Reddit, and I said, if you want to talk to me about whatever you want for as long as you want, send me an email. And so I put that ad out, and I got responses from all over the world. It turned out that this idea was something that resonated with people other than myself. And as a result, I had over 80 different conversations. I put them out every week. It was a podcast called Stranger Than Christian. It was every Saturday morning like this one. For a little while, it was syndicated on an independent radio station in Brooklyn. But that went away, and I just had more fun doing it on my own, you know, without notes and without having to fit it in a 60-minute window. But it was that experience hosting Stranger Than Christian and producing it and gathering all the interview subjects and editing it and putting it out and watching the metrics and the numbers. It was that experience that led me to what I'm doing now for the National Archives of Game Show History. It was in October of last year, 2022, that I was in a Zoom meeting with Bob Bowden, Howard Blumenthal, the two producers that are co-founders of the Game Show Archive, as well as some representatives from the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, where the archive is housed. And we were talking about how BuzzerBlog could be of assistance in terms of promoting what the museum was doing and specifically what the archive was doing. And as I did in 2020, I sensed an opportunity. And I spoke up and I said, you should let me do a podcast where I talk to former game show contestants. We're doing a great job archiving the props and the sets and the cards and the lights and the podiums and the name tags and the scripts and all these things. But to me, there is a really important element of game shows, which is the contestants, if not the most important part, because you don't have a game without people to play it. I have journalistic experience. I have podcasting experience. I've just spent the past 2.5 years talking to complete strangers from every continent on the planet. I think I can make something that would speak to the goal of what you're doing. I think what I would want to do would be very much in line with the purpose of the Game Show Archive, with the purpose of the Strong Museum, something that you could be proud of. I had never done that before. I had never just stuck my neck out in the middle of a conversation of that nature and just said, hey, you should, but something just spoke to me. It just felt like an opportunity that was crafted for my experience. And I am very, very fortunate that they saw the merit in the idea, thought it was a wonderful idea. I will always be flattered by that. And we started to work on the podcast the next month, and we're now 50 episodes in. It is one of the most creatively fulfilling experiences of my life. But it all started with Stranger Than Christian. So what I thought I'd do this week, again, while we're waiting for our audio from SporkleCon to come back to us, I thought I'd share an episode where I talked to a former game show contestant. Her name was Alice. I didn't get any last names for this particular project. Some people wanted to stay anonymous. I just thought having the first name only felt a little bit more intimate, felt more like a phone conversation than a podcast, which was the goal. Alice was a contestant on Let's Make a Deal a few years prior to our conversation, which we talked, I believe it was in April of 2020, while everybody was home. And so one of the things I noticed when I listened back to the older episodes of Stranger Than Christian is that idea that everybody is so relieved to have a conversation with someone who doesn't live in their house. Anyone who was subject to the lockdown period from March to May, early June, maybe a little bit after that, that might resonate with them. But so many people were thanking me for even reaching out and giving them that bit of social contact that they were missing. So you definitely hear a lot of that in this episode. I will forewarn you, there are some opinions, some game show related, some not, on both of our parts that have aged like milk. And for the purposes of not scrubbing my own history, I'm leaving them in because I am not immune from sounding silly once in a while. So anyway, I thought you'd appreciate hearing this episode of Stranger Than Christian from the spring of 2020. What a time to be alive. Enjoy. Right after high school, I took acting classes. I wanted to be an actor so badly, and for one reason or another, I fell out of it. But it was enlightening for me to talk to somebody who, even at a young age, was able to make a bit of a career out of it. Today, I'm talking to Alice, live from Los Angeles, California. This is Stranger Than Christian.
Hello?
Hi, Alice.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm glad this worked, actually.
Yeah, I am
I'm
too. This was, I gotta be honest with you, I've done about 20 of these so far, and this is the smoothest this has ever been.
oh good.
Usually, if you
Which
I don't know if you can tell, but if you listen to most of my episodes, they always begin with the guest apologizing because I always edit out like the 15 minutes that it takes for them to like get their audio straight and get everything they need to get.
oh no, that's too bad. No, and it's really good. I'm glad this worked out because I'm not at my computer with my usual microphone at the moment, where I would normally podcast from.
Oh, where are you?
I am on my iPad using iPhone headphones with a built-in microphone sitting on my bed.
That's
So
perfectly fine, actually. I almost prefer that. I almost prefer that it's not like like big professional setup. Like I put out the call for people to be on this thing on Reddit, on all the podcasting subreddits. So everybody has a great microphone, everybody has a great setup. So I don't mind having somebody who's just on their iPad on the bed.
yeah, I normally I would, but my office is right next to the kitchen, and the dishwasher is running right now, and it's really loud. So I was like, well, I gotta go make something up somewhere else, and this was very smooth.
It sounds great.
Awesome.
Are you working from home?
I cannot work from home because my job, my day job, I am a flight attendant
Oh, cool.
in real life.
What airline?
I work for American.
Oh, okay, cool. I seem to remember that like part of the allure of being a stewardess or flight attendant, whatever they call it, is that you get a really cool uniform. Do you have a really cool uniform?
I have a pretty cool uniform. We've gone through cycles in the last few years with uniform problems. So the uniform that we had when I first started was a uniform we'd had since like '93 or something like that. Just like an old, very classic blue suit kind of uniform, like a dark navy suit. And then right when I started flying, they tried to get us a new set of uniforms. They were like this cool charcoal gray. They were really excited about the rollout. We worked for months and months and months on making sure that everybody had pieces that fit them proper and everything. So they ship them all out and we start wearing them. And within a couple of months, some people started to get really sick. People were breaking out in horrible rashes. One girl went to the hospital with respiratory problems. And they figured out, I guess, that some of the batches of our uniforms were being made in some factory that had packaged them in some kind of chemical that started making people really sick.
Oh my God.
And so they were like, okay, if you get sick from the new uniforms, don't wear them. Find your own pieces that match, or wear the old uniform. Like, do what you can to not get sick, and we'll see what we could do. And so for a couple of years, I was just wearing some random gray dress that I found on Amazon because it kind of sort of looked like our uniform. And I wore it for ages. And then they finally rolled out a brand new uniforms that had been checked and double checked and triple checked for chemicals or whatever. And so now we're back in navy blue, and they look nice. I mean, I think I look great in my new uniform. So I hope everybody else is happy with it too. But
that's so great to have a job where you get to wear something that just kind of naturally boosts your self-esteem. I work in hospitality. I work at front desks, and so I have like they got me a couple of gray suits, and the cut is okay, but it's nice to wear something that just like automatically gives you a little bit more dignity, you know?
Absolutely. And it's so nice to be in a spot with a uniform or something that they've given you to wear, so you don't have to think about it every day. That was the thing that I didn't like the most. For a while, I was doing an internship at a magazine, the editorial department at a magazine, and it was in New York, and it was downtown in the financial district, and even though my magazine and like the corporate like area, like my building and my coworkers were fairly casual, I still felt this pressure to like dress up real nice and wear heels to work a lot, and doing heels on the subway was no fun. And
right.
But I had to pick out my outfit every day. And if I wore the same thing twice in a week, I'd feel like somebody would notice. And, but I can wear this skirt with this top, but I have to, make sure that it doesn't look too much like this outfit, or am I too dressed up? Am I too casual? There was so much pressure. I love a uniform taking that choice away from me.
That's way too much pressure. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. My suits are actually machine washable, which I don't think I'm going to test that because I feel like that would, I don't trust it. But that's what they say. They say that you can wear it and throw it in the washing machine and not have to get it pressed. But I think I'm just going to get it pressed anyway, just for my sake, for my benefit.
Absolutely. But if you needed to wash it, if there was a time constraint, that's like a really nice feature.
Oh yeah, if I'm like 10 minutes late for yeah, exactly. I can just like throw it in and be good to go. In that case, I'll give it a try. But until then, I'll just do my dry cleaning like a normal person.
Yeah.
You live in Los Angeles, correct?
I do.
Okay.
I do. I'm technically in Long Beach, but it's LA County. I'm just south of Los Angeles.
So, what degree, on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is show business or the idea of breaking into show business in your life?
Well, for me, when I was younger, it was extremely important, and it creeps in every once in a while. Scale 1 to 10, I feel like, I'd say maybe like a 7.5 and 8, as far as like show business impacting my life and like my life growing up here. So I grew up in this area, and I did a little acting when I was younger. I made appearances in TV and commercials, and so did a lot of people that I grew up with. And my mother did it, and my uncle did it, and there definitely were degrees of seriousness that people took it. But also our arts programs in our high schools, our choir and theater programs were really intense and very competitive. So yeah, there definitely is like a environment in this city and in this like part of the world that takes show business and like performance extremely seriously.
Well, I'll just get this out of the way. You and I have that in common because I've always wanted to be on the radio. I've always wanted to be on TV. That's been my lifelong dream. And I don't live in Los Angeles. I live closer to New York than LA. But I can identify with the idea that when I was younger, it was so important to me, and it drove just about every decision I made in my life. But as I got older, I got like I don't have kids, but I sort of became like this quiet like dad type where like I enjoy my like peace and quiet sometimes, and I enjoy like shopping for command strips and stuff like that. Like I just my whole list of priorities has like flipped upside down as I got older. And I won't say your age, but you're more or less in my demographic. You're more or less my age.
Yeah, I'll say my age. Because it's almost my birthday. I'm going to be 29 in 16 days.
Oh, happy early birthday.
I look forward to thank you. I look forward to my birthday. I look forward to aging a little bit. And I totally identify when you said like shopping for command strips. I got so excited about going to Lowe's the other day. And I've always hated Lowe's. I never liked Lowe's. Or Home Depot or anything like that. But I found myself really excited to go. I was going to go pick up some plants and I realized I was like, oh, I'm like an adult now. This is so fun.
It's fun.
I love getting older.
Yeah, because I feel like part of the fun of shopping for stuff like that is you're sort of doubling down on this idea that like this is my home and I can put things in my home if I want to and nobody can tell me I can't. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, it's so nice. And it really is nice. And to pop back a little bit about about how important things like show business and stuff like that was like when we were younger, and how important that like felt when we were younger. It creeps back every once in a while still, where I'll be sitting here, this close to Los Angeles and thinking like, I could just go to an audition. I could just go get my headshots done and try it again.
Yes.
And I could, any day now, I'm going to just say, screw the corporate life. I'm going to go be an actor. But something has kept me from doing it. And part of that is that as I get older, I am becoming more of a homebody. I've become a little less adventurous and a little bit more. I'm curating my home. I'm interested in planting a garden. I'm growing basil, cilantro, and mint in my windowsill. And I got so excited when I was able to cut some of that basil off and make a caprese salad out of it, And I was like, I felt so thrilled, like I had accomplished something like really tangible and really like physical. And that was something that I wanted out of like a career in show business. And I still kind of want every once in a while, I get a craving to go, audition for something. And, but I haven't done it. But I'm hoping that I can find some kind of peace in home ownership, in what does Candide say? Into caring for your own garden or tending your own garden, as like a goal, and not like just like a literal garden, but like the act of caring for something that's yours and building something that you made, it's really fulfilling, like creatively and spiritually.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I one of the things that I don't want to say I struggle with it because it's not a struggle, but one of the things that I'm learning to do is take pride in my home and make that, like you said, make that my goal. Because I've always, so when you filled out the application, I put the application on Reddit and I just said, whoever wants to fill it out. And you mentioned that you were a contestant on a game show. Now, as somebody who was a contestant on 6 game shows, that appealed to me immediately.
Oh my gosh, what game shows did you do?
Okay, so I'll start from the beginning. When I turned 18, I asked for tickets to see The Price is Right. And that was my first game show. So I was on during like Bob Barker's last month. And I waited in line for 3 days and I got in and I won a sofa and I lost a car and I lived the dream. And I just spun the wheel, the whole thing.
Oh my gosh.
2 years after that, my freshman year of college, my first month of college, I got on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And I won $15,000 on Millionaire.
Oh my gosh.
And then that
is the dream.
Oh God, I sat in the chair and listen, I'm a game show nerd. I could go on about this forever, but I sat in the chair and everything. It was the whole thing. And then 2 years after that, MTV redid Hollywood Squares for a season, so I was on that and I won $1,000. DJ Khaled won me $1,000. And then
oh wow.
Yeah. And then I was on a show called The Chase on GSN a couple years after that. That was the following year, 2013. So I was on The Chase for Game Show Network, and then I was on a syndicated show called Let's Ask America, and then last summer, I was a contestant on Match Game. So those are the 6.
Fun.
Yeah, I had a good time.
That is so cool. I love
time.
Game shows. I'm not like a game show nerd, I wouldn't say, but my grandpa and I used to watch The Price is Right together after school. When he'd pick me up from school, we used to watch The Price is Right. I loved Bob Barker.
Yeah, see, my dad and I used to watch it. Yeah, exactly. It was always a family activity.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm a big Jeopardy nerd is what I'm. I love Jeopardy. I love trivia shows. That's why when you're like, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, like that's the dream right there to be on a like a quiz show. Oh, I would die.
Oh God, it was oh my God, and that's the only way to describe it. All I can say is it was the whole thing. Like it was everything you could ever expect from that experience, except for the music. There's no music when you're sitting in the studio, which is even more nerve-wracking because there's 300 people in that audience.
They add it all in post.
Yes, exactly. Well, the only thing they didn't add in post, I was on the one season. And I will get back to the changes in a minute, the changes that they made between when they called me and when I got on the show. But the one change they made was that everything was on a clock. So I had 30 seconds for each question. So the only sound in the studio was the ticking of the clock. That was the most nerve-wracking shit in life. That is the most pressure I've ever been under.
That's terrifying.
Oh my God, it was horrifying. And then what was even more horrifying, so they called me, I promise we'll get to you in a second. They called me.
Oh no, it's fine.
They called me on a Tuesday, and they said, can you come to the studio on Thursday? I was living in Connecticut, so it was like an hour train ride to New York. And I said, yeah. On Wednesday, they called me and said, we've been discussing some changes we're going to make. We're no longer doing the phone a friend. And I had a whole list of people that I was going to call if I got stuck.
Oh, no.
That was a huge part of my strategy. And they called the day before. I was part of the first day of taping where they didn't do phone a friend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I was ready for that resource.
Oh my God. I was shook. I was shook.
What lifeline did they give you instead?
So they did something called Ask the Expert, where they had some supposedly expert. I had one of the anchors on the weekend edition of Good Morning America. Which it came in handy because she knew the answer to the question that I needed her on. So it came in handy. but other people had like Bill Nye and Ken Jennings and shit. And like, I didn't even know the ladies.
Oh, wow.
I didn't even know who it was that I got assigned, but it all worked out.
Wow, that's fascinating. I would just wow, I would love it. And I just looked down at the Zoom call and realized that your little icon, that's you on the Match Game, isn't it?
I'm turning around.
Is
I have
that
my
Match
computer
Game?
behind me. That is Match Game.
Was that so? The Match Game was they rebooted Match Game, right?
Yeah, so that was
recently.
Yeah, so that's on ABC. They did that in New York as well, and that is
Alec Baldwin hosted that, didn't he?
Alec Baldwin, and I got. I'm trying to think of who was on my episode. I had Mario Cantone from Sex and the City. I had Caroline Ray. I had Wayne Newton, who I was as a 30-year-old man, I was ridiculously excited to meet Wayne Newton, because that's one of those people that, and I tried to explain this to my friends, that, like, you'll never see him in person. Like, he is literally like the ghost of Las Vegas. Like, you only see him there on stage doing what he does. He doesn't just, like, go out and, like, make appearances and stuff other than this. So I was, like, ridiculously excited to meet Wayne Newton. And then I had Sandra Bernhard and I had Raven Simone. It was like a fever dream. Yeah, it was really, really cool.
That is so cool.
I want to hear about the show.
A few episodes of the reboot.
I want to hear about the show you were on.
Okay, the show. Sure.
Enough about me.
I was on. I did an episode of Let's Make a Deal with Wayne Brady, and so and that's the one it's on CBS, and everybody shows up in funny, goofy little costumes, and so we go. I go with my mom, who's always a hoot to bring to things like this, and she's game for anything. So we dressed up. We decided last minute our costumes were going to. We dressed up as like a classic nerd, like Revenge of the Nerds. We hiked up our pants a little bit. We taped our glasses together.
Right.
I put my hair in like lopsided pigtails, and put a kick me sign on the back of my sweater. And so we went in, and the interview process was cool, and we're just like hyped to be there. We did not expect to get picked. We didn't expect to win anything. We just were killing a day in LA, and so we're chatting with everybody. We know that like a big part of like the casting for things like that is like when you're in the waiting area, they're always watching you.
Yes,
and
when you don't think they're watching you, they're watching
friends
you.
With people, and we're participating.
Yep.
They're totally watching us the whole time. And so we get sat in the theater, and we get sat all the way in the last row back corner of the theater. And they keep saying over and over, they're like, it's like the seating doesn't matter. We pick from all areas of the theater. Don't worry about it. But we're so far away from the stage that we're like, no, they're not going to pick us. Like, that's ridiculous. And then, so the first person that they selected to go down was they selected a girl who was in exactly the same outfit I was in. She was wearing a little she had a little cardigan on, had her glasses taped, had her hair in pigtails. Only difference is I had a red cardigan on and hers was green. And so she looked exactly like me. So I was like, oh, well, they're not going to pick me now. Like, that's
they fulfilled the nerd quota for this episode, right?
They got the nerds. It was the very first girl they picked. So I was like, oh, so I'm good. Like, I'm not going to get picked. I don't need to worry about this or pay attention. I'm just going to enjoy being here in a nice air conditioned room with my mom. Wayne Brady is right there. We love him. I'm just going to enjoy myself. So my mom and I are in the back corner of the room, just jamming out to the music. We're hanging out. We're cheering and participating, but we has stopped caring and stopped paying attention just altogether. And then all of a sudden they called my name and the camera zooms in on me. I was the last person to get called up.
Oh my
God.
And
I freaked out. I was like, what? And I ran down the stairs where Brady was like, oh my God, don't fall. And I just ran down to him and he hugged me. And I was like, gonna cry in Wayne Brady's face because he's such an icon. And I played the game. So the thing with Let's Make a Deal is that you basically, it's like a betting game, and you can choose like door number 1 or box number 2, like that. But something in one of those is going to be what they call the zonk, which is like I mean, I know but maybe somebody listening might not.
Sure.
And so the zonk is like a boo, you lose, and like a buzzer goes off, and then Wayne Brady goes, oh, too bad, have a good one.
It was always some kind of crappy prize. Like historically, it was like a pig or like a big giant rocking horse or something ridiculous. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And so they wheel out 4 little boxes. And he says, okay, I'm going to open box number 1. Here you go. Here's box number 1. It's $2,500. And I was like, whoa. Oh. He goes, all right, so you can keep box number 1, $2,500, or I can open box number 2, and then you can keep both of those prizes. But if it's a zonk, you lose all of it. And I was like, oh, what the heck? Open the box.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, I was like, yeah, open the box. And he goes, it's a fancy new camera. It was like a really nice camera. I was like, oh, wow, like this is really great. Because do you want to open box number 3? Same rules apply. And I was like, well, yeah, I'm going to open box number 3. Why not? Right. And I always said to myself, when we were walking in, my mom and I were plotting, we're like, if one of us gets picked, it doesn't matter if we zonk because we came in with nothing. Like if we're not losing money, we came in with nothing. If you zonk, whatever. It was fun. Open any box, do whatever you want. Because, it's about the fun of it. And so I'm like, what the heck? Open box number 3. And he opens box number 3, and it was like an all expenses paid vacation to Palm Springs. And I was like, oh my, wow. Oh my God. It. I just, and I'm sitting here with like this, like a huge winner. And so far, and I'll get to it later, but they tally on the side who's won the most like cash value total. And I'm at the top now for the whole day. And he goes, do you want to open box number 4? Now, remember, if it's a zonk, you lose all of it. But if it's a prize, you get all of it. And I look up at my mom, and she's just wide-eyed her eyes were so wide and her face is white. She was like, she has no idea what to do. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to take it and run. And I was so mad because I told myself I would never do that. I was like, I'm going to open every box, but I had won so much. I was like, I'm going to take what I have and I'm going to walk. And he goes, okay, do you want to know what was in box number 4? And he opens it up and it was a car.
Oh.
And so I could have walked away with this car and a trip to Palm Springs and $2,500 and a fancy camera. But, I'm like, I was like, oh, bummer. But, like, it's fine. I won. And Wayne Brady, hugs me again, and he's like, good for you. Now go back and sit down. And then they say, all right, so now we go in order for who's won the biggest prize of the day. You get to choose. Do you want to, and then, no, somebody else had won. One other person had won just a little bit more. Her cash value was just a little bit more than mine. She had won an all expenses paid trip to Aruba. And they were like, you can give up your trip to Aruba for a chance to play the final game. And she said no, so it went to me. And they said, do you want to give up your cash, your trip, and your camera for a chance to play for the big prize? And I was like, well, yeah. Well, now
you did it. You went for it?
So I went for it. I went.
Oh my God.
I played the Monty Hall problem, and there was the 3 curtains right there in front of me. And I don't know what to do, and I have no idea. I'm like, I'm gonna pick a curtain, but I know that if they give me a chance to switch, I was like, I paid attention. I know this theory. I know this game theory. I know what I'm doing. And I get up in front of that curtain, and I just stare at it, and I was like, number 2, I guess. And I didn't get a chance. They didn't give me a chance to switch curtains, which I guess is like I haven't paid attention, but I thought that they would open one of the curtains and then give you a chance to either stick with your curtain or change to the other one. But they didn't. They opened the curtains, and I didn't win the big prize, which was a 10-day trip to Jamaica and a 10-day trip to Peru or something. And the small prize was a washer dryer set. I won the middle prize, which was a set of his and hers scooters. Like Vespas, but not Vespas. They were some other brand that similar to like mopeds.
Right.
And so I wanted like a set, like a big one and a little one. And honestly, genuinely disappointing. The scooters stunk. They were so bad. It took a year for them to arrive to my house. And when they finally arrived, they they were like brand new when I won them in the year 2013. But they got delivered in 2014. So they were already like an old model. So I went to go try to sell them, and they were already like outdated and
You're like obsolete. Oh my God.
Yeah. So I was able to sell them barely. I was like, I'm gonna get stuck with these dang scooters.
Well, that's another
what
element.
Gonna do? Say no?
Right. That's another element of this experience that we have in common. Because when I was on The Price is Right, I won a sofa, and that turned out to be crap because we moved. Okay. So that took another like 5 months to get to my house. And it was one day, like the show aired in May. It was one day in like February that the doorbell rang, and there were these two big like Kentucky corn-fed delivery guys with this big truck. And he said, "Does someone here buy a couch?" And I went, "Wait a second. No. Oh, wait. Yeah, I want. Yeah." So they brought it in, and I said, "Hey, you guys want to see how I got this couch?" So I played the episode for them because I had it on YouTube. So my dad walks in. It's just me and these two 400-pound delivery guys sitting on this brand new sofa watching me on TV, which is it was a very Twin Peaks moment. But we moved to another apartment a few months later, and it just completely snapped in half. It was like hollow underneath.
Oh,
it was ridiculous.
No. Oh, that's too bad.
That's all right. I saved a pillow from it, and I had a backpack made out of the fabric for it, so I still had a little like a memento of it in some way. But that's a
really good idea.
That's part of the experience when it comes to game shows is that the prizes they're giving them away because they're like not very good.
Not very good. Yeah, the scooters maybe like they were barely street legal. They went. I think the little one topped out at like 40 miles an hour. Like they were so, and they just I couldn't give them away. It took ages to sell them. I sold them way lower than I could have if I had been able to walk away with them like then and there, and sell them. They could have been worth something. But it was like well over a year later that I was trying to sell these ding dang 2013 model scooters. But it was so much fun. At the end of it, it's like what did I didn't lose anything. I gained these, dumb little scooters and a story and a video on YouTube that I can show people
exactly.
And I just laugh about it.
You gained the experience. To me, like that
and
was
I got
always
to hug Wayne Brady.
Hey, who can take that away from you? Nobody. Even though he gave you the long zonk. He zonked you, but it took like a long time.
I was so mad. I was like, could have walked away with that car too. And the car probably would have been crappy too, but whatever. Like, but of all the things, like, and my mom, we walk away and we're driving home and I was like, did that just happen? We just did this like this whole thing where we swore we were going to open every box and we swore we were going to participate in every game, and we didn't. We just when the spotlight was on me, I just froze up and I was like, no, I'm gonna be safe and run with my cash. And I didn't think that I would be that kind of person. I thought for sure I was a little more risky than that. And so I learned a little bit about myself that day.
The lights and the glitter, it all takes over. That's showbiz, baby. When I was okay, so first of all, I'll quickly let you know that the car that I played for on The Price is Right was a Pontiac Vibe. So I lost it, and a lot of my friends told me I really ended up the winner in that situation. But when I did Hollywood Squares a couple years later, my opponent, I was X, and my opponent, she was O, and I forget her name, but she was a model, and she lived in Brooklyn, and I got lucky because I happened to play this game against the only person in the universe who didn't know how to play tic-tac-toe.
Oh, no way.
And she botched this severely. It was the easiest money I'd ever made. And
oh my gosh.
So I had like the corner and I had like the square right above it. It was like Fat Joe and then somebody from like Mob Wives. And then so she had the opportunity to block me, because it's tic-tac-toe. Like that's the game. And so she goes all the way to the side. And the host, who was some New York area DJ, he said something like, "Are you sure you want to do that?" And she went, "Yeah, I'm sure." And he said, "Okay." And asked the question. She got it wrong, and then I got it right, and I won. So it happened again in the second game where I was getting ready for a diagonal. I had 2 X's, and she had the opportunity to block me in the corner. She went all the way down to the bottom and did the same thing. And in the middle of the question, she goes, "Oh no, wait, can I change my mind?" And everybody on the set is kind of looking at each other like, what do you do? I guess we're going to have to like stop tape. And you can't change your mind. Like once you pick a square, like you pick the square. You know what I mean? That's it. So the host says no. And she says, "Please." And he says, "No. Unfortunately, I was very serious when I said you couldn't change your mind." And she started to cry.
Oh no.
And they had to stop everything to like get her to stop crying. And like, what the hell do I do in the meantime? Like, I'm just standing there. Like, we're 15 feet off the ground, which is another thing that people don't realize about Hollywood Squares. When you're on that show, you're literally 20 feet off the ground because you have to face this big giant board. And so it was just like everything just stopped for like 45 minutes while they got her to like calm down. And I won and it was great, but.
Oh my gosh. That
very
poor
unfortunate
girl.
experience. I felt so bad. Yeah, I felt bad.
Oh. To be totally caught off guard and realize, and then to just lose it. And sometimes you just can't help but cry. Like, I totally get that. I'm a crier for sure. I cry at everything. I cried this morning reading a BuzzFeed listicle about the saddest like deaths in Disney movies. And I cried. Like, I wasn't even watching the movie.
You know what though? There's nothing wrong with crying. And you know what? If we're going to end toxic masculinity, we're going to end it right now. I cry at stuff.
Good.
Not all the time, but I cry a fair amount. I cry when things come full circle. So like I saw a thing once about like a little boy he was put up for adoption and got saved by some doctor, some guy. The guy got older. He had a heart attack. He turned out to get saved in the hospital by a surgeon who turned out to be the boy that he adopted. And like when things when things like that happen, like that shit gets me. Like that stuff like that gets me.
Oh my God, I'm gonna cry just thinking about it.
Oh no, don't cry now. Don't cry.
No, I'm not gonna cry, but I am getting a little misty. No, because that's the same. I'm glad you said that like that. Like when things come full circle, because I feel that. When there's a appropriate and like satisfying ending to something where you realize that like the time that was put in from the beginning comes back around, this like narratively in like movies and real life, and when the narrative comes full circle and ends on just the note that it's supposed to, it feels so good.
Yeah,
it feels so good that I just cry. I lose it.
It's beautiful. It's just like naturally created art. You know what I mean? Like things they just make that full circle. There was some sitcom, I'm not going to remember the name of it, but I want to say it was in the late 80s, early 90s. And the last episode, the last scene of the last episode, the main character, the female lead, is getting on a plane to say goodbye to her family forever. And then she comes back through the gate and she says, "Wait a second, it's been canceled." And the dad says, "The flight?" And she says, "No, the series. Goodbye, everyone." And everything zooms out, and all of a sudden you see the audience and the cue cards and the stuff like that. Like that, it's just I don't know. Stuff like that just gets me.
That's fun. I need to know what that show is.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. And somebody like it's if you talk about like late 80s, early 90s TV, it's like an iconic scene, and I cannot remember the name of the show, but I know somebody listening will know.
They're probably shouting at their podcast player right now, trying to get us to hear. I do it when I listen to podcasts, and if somebody's like, I know the answer. What is it? What is it? What is it? And I'm like shouting at them, thinking they can hear me. Like it's this. You me, or when somebody misses a question on Jeopardy that I know, and I'm just like, oh, come on. Even I know this one.
What would be your category on Jeopardy? I've talked about this with a few people who, for some reason, this show attracts people who love Jeopardy. So this is like the fourth time I'm having this conversation, but I love it. I can do it forever. What are your categories if you were to be on Jeopardy?
Okay. Like a pop culture would definitely would do it. British literature would be another. If I was on Jeopardy and Alex Trebek looked me in the eye and was like, oh, this next category is opera, I would just lose my mind. Like, I
opera. Are you good with opera?
No, I'm terrible with opera.
I was going to say, okay.
But I know that it's Alex Trebek's like favorite category. He loves it. He's always putting that. He loves talking about opera, and I would just be like, no, Alex, no, anything but opera. No, it would be literature. It would be maybe like European geography. I think I could do. There's like a handful of like very specific things that when they come up as categories on Jeopardy, I get really excited about.
Right.
But I would be the ones I would be really bad at. I'm just notoriously terrible at anagram. When letters are shuffled up, I can't do it. I'm so bad at anagrams.
The anagrams would be my number one category on Jeopardy. I would kill anagrams. I talked about this in another episode. I have this like mental thing where if I see a word, the letters will just fall off and rearrange themselves in alphabetical order. I don't know if it's a disease. I don't know if it's an underlying condition or something. Some warning sign of something more serious in my life. But for some reason, I can just alphabetize the letters in words instantly.
That is so cool. What a cool skill. I can't do it. My best friend in the whole wide universe, Buddy DeCane, he can do it. He is a genius at anagrams. He's always been good at anagrams, at wordplay, at anything like that. When I don't play Scrabble with him. I can't do it. It's impossible. One, because I'm really bad at Scrabble and he's really good. I'm uncommonly bad and he's uncommonly good. So we just don't play. And yeah, I would, yeah, I realized you asked me what my Jeopardy categories were and I answered with like one category I'm good at and like three that I'm terrible at. But I watch it enough to know my weaknesses.
Right. That's I feel like opera would be anyone's weakness. I think on the show they even call it the dreaded opera category now. Like they don't even call it straight opera anymore because they know that everyone hates it.
So like, oh no, it's opera, and Alex Trebek just smiles his smug little handsome smile.
Little Canadian Ottawa smile. Yep.
He does. He loves it when he can stump people, and he loves to say I can't even like do it because he's so particular at it. But when he pronounces the word genre, he says genre.
Genre. Yeah, he has like he has that guttural kind of thing.
Yes, I can't do it, and it's so delightful when he does it. I get so giddy whenever I watch it, and yeah, Jeopardy is me and my dad's game. My dad and I watch Jeopardy.
Yeah, my dad put me on a Jeopardy when I was really young.
Yeah, and my mom is always like, you should audition. You should go on Jeopardy. And I'm like, you think I haven't tried, Mom?
That's a hard one.
Taking the test.
Yeah,
that's a hard test.
I've passed the test. The closest I ever got, I passed the online test, and I got invited to do the in-person thing in New York, and that was fun. But they never picked me for anything. Yeah. Oh God. Well, because of the number of shows I've been on, according to their rules, I don't think I can be on until like the year 2026 or something like that. Like I have a long way to wait. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a couple years. I think I'm good to go. I could go back on Let's Make a Deal if I wanted to. It was like you have to wait 1 year to be on a game, on any other game show. You have to wait 3 years to be on any CBS game show, and you have to wait 5 years to be on Let's Make a Deal again, I think was the deal, something like that.
Oh yeah, so you're due for another one if you want.
Oh, I'm good. Like I'm in clear.
Yeah.
I could go back. It was so much fun. Well, not like anybody's taping anything right now, anyways. But it was so much fun. I would totally go back, even just to be. And I was in the audience for The Price is Right once, and my friend got called up on The Price is Right, but she never made it off of the. she never made it off the floor. She never made it onto the stage. She just
Right.
wasn't bidding right. She got so nervous. Her bids were so off. And she wasn't expecting to go. She was just playing along because I was like, oh, I've got 4 tickets. Let's just go. And she was like, yeah, okay, I'll just go. She wasn't like a watcher or anything. And she got picked to go down on the floor. And she was like, oh, I don't know.
Listen,
she had
that
no idea
show,
what she was doing. But I just sat in the audience and cheered her on.
that show is so nerve-wracking when you're playing it in person, and part of what makes it so nerve-wracking is the smoothness with which this show operates. Like, I got called down in the beginning of the show, so the very beginning. I was like one of the first 4. So I got called down. Before I know it, Bob Barker's standing in front of me. I'm eye level with his shoes. And he points, and you can't hear anything. Everybody's going insane. He points, 2 guys pull open 2 doors. There's a refrigerator. Okay, when's the last time I saw a refrigerator in person? How much did it cost? Everybody's yelling a number. Just say something. And it's just, and I feel like a lot of game shows especially thrive on that type of pressure. Like, they know the lights and everything. Like, it's gonna fluster you a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people are so smooth and good at it, and it's just so much. The smoothness is exact, like the way that it runs, like seamlessly, where they can tape a half-hour episode in like 45 minutes. They don't need breaks. They don't need like time to reset anything because they're they're so good at it now. I noticed that when I went on Let's Make Deal, and I noticed it. I went to a taping of The Daily Show once when I was living in New York. I walked over to the studio and watched an episode of The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And the thing could not have been smoother. The way they filed us in, sat us down, recorded it, grabbed a guest, did a video segment, bye, everybody leave. And it took no time at all.
Yeah, live to tape, they call it. They just like pretend it's live TV and they just knock it out.
Yep. They only take breaks as long as a commercial break would be, it was so smooth, and the PAs were so good. Even these like interns were so good, and I was so impressed by how smooth that process went. And the waiting area was cool. They made us wait in line, but they had, do you watch The Daily Show?
Oh yeah, of course I do.
Trevor Noah has had the cake from Trump's inaugural he had the cake out, and they had it like there for us to look at and take pictures with and stuff, and so they gave us something to do to entertain ourselves in the meantime. Trevor Noah did like a 5-minute Q&A session, and then they're like, all right, let's go. And
that's so cool.
It was nice. It was really cool.
I remember.
I love stuff like that.
Yeah, oh, me too. I saw the Colbert Report. I think it was probably even the same studio as the Daily Show. I saw that a few years ago. That was fun. Stephen Colbert is just like one of the ultimate entertainers. But
he is amazing. He is one of my favorite personalities in all of Hollywood. He's so good.
Definitely. Especially on late night TV right now. To me, he's the only one that him and Conan are like the big two for me right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They're just Stephen Colbert. He's so intelligent, and he's entertaining, and he's clever, and he's sweet. He seems like good-hearted. I love to watch. I loved the Colbert Report when it was on, even when he's playing the character. I love everything about him.
Oh yeah. He's a king. Totally.
His Tolkien nerddom is like something to aspire to. I always say, like, if I got to meet somebody, they're like, gun to your head, you get to meet like a celebrity right now, I'd be like, I'd probably pick Colbert and just talk about Lord of the Rings with him as long as I could. But I mean, of course, he'd outclass me by so much. I consider myself to be a moderate fan. He's a super fan.
Oh, he's ultimate. Yeah, absolutely.
But I would just want to like try at least just to have the experience of getting to talk to him about Tolkien for a minute. He's so cool.
My wife cries at cute things. To get back to something we were talking about a few minutes ago, she cries at cute things. So I have a cute thing, and I don't know if this will do it to you, but I want to tell you anyway. So, Alex Trebek is battling pancreatic cancer. He got diagnosed about a year and a half ago. Was it a year and a half ago? Maybe even shorter than that. Anyway, so his hair is no longer his hair. He wears a wig. And so a few weeks ago, paparazzi caught a picture of him without his wig outside his house taking the garbage out. And do you know he wears a Jeopardy t-shirt around the house?
No, he does not.
Isn't that the most adorable thing you have ever heard? How precious is that?
Oh, that's so precious.
Right?
I won't, but I could totally cry about that.
Yeah, right. It's just like so wholesome.
It's so wholesome and sweet, and also it's making me think about how, like, what if we lost Alex Trebek, and now I'm gonna cry, but I'm not. I'm good. But,
oh no, don't cry.
Still,
listen,
like,
they have a plan. Well, I think they have a plan in place. So part of what I do on the side is I write for a game show blog. And so a couple years ago, when the big leak happened at Sony, when all their emails got distributed all over the place, there were a couple that were written in relation to Jeopardy, and a lot of them were written from the executive producer of Jeopardy to Anderson Cooper, and they seem to be meeting a lot.
Ooh.
And they seem to be meeting for lunch whenever he's in town. So my suspicion is that he's next in line. He's not who I would pick. I would pick LeVar Burton from Reading Rainbow because I think that would be
I also would pick LeVar Burton.
Oh my God, that would be... Talk about something coming full circle.
Oh my God. Oh, LeVar Burton would be so good at it. You know who I was thinking of too would be Peter Sagal is another person that I would throw in.
Who is that? Why is that name not familiar to me?
Peter Sagal hosts Wait, Don't Tell Me on NPR.
Oh my God, how great would that be?
It's a trivia game show. Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just completely forgot his name.
He is so smart, and he's so clever, and he's so funny. Peter Sagal, I mean, LeVar Burton is 100% my number one choice, but Peter Sagal's my number two. I would watch Anderson Cooper do it, though. I would. I mean, he's so charming. He's so good looking. I'd watch Anderson Cooper read the phone book. Anderson
Cooper's a good guy. That's just like one of those all around, like, I love everything about him.
Yeah, charming and attractive and smart, and he can be funny, and I would watch that. But man, can you imagine LeVar Burton in that spot? He would just kill it.
No one will ever convince me that he's not the best choice. They won't pick him. I think he's too old, and they'll probably go for somebody who just skews younger. But oh my God, that would be the dream.
Yeah, that's definitely the dream. I think I was on the Jeopardy subreddit, and I suggested Peter Sagal, and a lot of people were like, yeah, I'm so into it. And then somebody reminded me, I forgot, Peter Sagal was a contestant on Jeopardy once before he was really, before he made a name for himself in public radio. He was a contestant on Jeopardy.
Yeah, they would not pick him, which is the same reason. They probably wouldn't pick him. Everybody suggests that Ken Jennings should host it. Ken Jennings does not have a host personality. That man is dry, he does not, and not cool. 2, I think the underlying issue is that he is so familiar with so many people on like that trivia circuit that would immediately like disqualify a lot of people who would try to get on Jeopardy. Like, he just knows so many people who would audition that it would just knock out a whole pool of people.
Exactly. Yeah. No, there's too much there. You need to pull somebody from the outside, which I guess is why they wouldn't pick Peter Sagal. I still would really like to see it, but why LeVar Burton and like Anderson Cooper would be really good choices for that, because they're smart and they're well read and can present the information with authority, but they don't have a conflict of interest with the community, with the trivia community, which is so big.
It is. It's like X-Men. Like, once you become a mutant, all the other mutants just like make themselves known to you.
I found myself. So I back when the world was normal, I used to go to a lot of Geeks Who Drink pub trivia nights.
Yes, I used to host Geeks Who Drink.
Hey, that's so fun.
Yeah.
I love Geeks Who Drink, and they were pretty much the only trivia nights I would go to, because I liked that I knew the format, and I knew the format would be the same everywhere that I went, and they were at some of my favorite bars. And I used to go to so many of those. And then I was looking into going to Geek Bowl. I didn't go, but I was looking into going, and then I was looking at pictures from the Geek Bowl the year before, and what's his name? Colby, was there. Was
Colby Burnett, right?
The winning team. Yeah, he was on the winning team for the Geeks Who Drink Geek Bowl. And I was like, oh, come on. You can't have an actual Jeopardy like all-star on your team. That's cheating.
Cheating. Yeah, of course it's cheating.
But no, I mean, he's just a regular guy, right? Like he's just some guy who just happens to be famous for being good at trivia. So he's allowed to play. It just
They exist among us. Yep.
Yeah, to see, I was like, hold on, I know that smug little smile. That's Colby.
Right. Yeah, Colby, and that was the thing. Before I knew he was so good, I watched him like in like regular play, and he always had this look on his face, like, is that all you got? And I used to hate that. But now that's just like that's I know that's just like part of him.
Yeah, I still do get a little irritated by it. I think when they were doing the what tournament was that they just did where they grabbed all of the all-stars? It was the all-star tournament, right? Because the one with James and Brad and Ken was greatest of all time tournament.
Right. And then
so
they had
all-stars
like
was one where they got Buzzy and Austin and Colby and all of those guys came in to do it. And I loved watching it. It was so much fun. But I was like, for Colby, I was like, dang it, Colby, like, wipe that smile off your face, dude. You're losing.
Right. You have no right to look like that right now.
I know that's just who he is and like how he is. That's his resting face or whatever. It just comes off as so smug sometimes. I was like, I can't root for this guy. I mean, I did, but because he's good. But I don't know. It's his face sometimes. But yeah, that was a fun little tournament. I like when they do stuff like that.
I love all the tournaments in general. It's so fun to see people that are really, really good at like betting and answer. I love it. I want to hear. Yeah.
What do you think about James?
Okay.
I said, let's talk about betting. What do you think of James?
So James is a killer. I mean, he bets aggressively, and and I feel like what gets lost in the discussion about James, everybody talks about how much he bets, but he's also really good on the buzzer, so the mechanical advantage is there. He's just really good at hitting the button, and he knows everything. Like it's great to bet aggressively and to blow all your money, but like you also have to know the answers. Like that's a huge part of the strategy that gets lost in the conversation about him.
Yes, exactly. I loved watching James. I loved watching him play. I love how aggressive he bids and that he's got the skills to back it up. And that's what made it even more impressive. My mother, for example, I'm watching it with my parents every once in a while. And my dad and my mom would be like, I'm so tired of him on here. Get somebody else. He's been on too long. And I was like, okay, but like a fraction at the time Ken Jennings was on, but all right. And
right.
He's been on too long. And who even is this guy? He's just betting so much. He's just vague. This guy, and I was like, well, yeah, he's betting all that because he's got the power to back it up. He's got the skills,
right? And there's also
I love that.
Once you win a certain number of games using that strategy, it also becomes like there's this element of intimidation that gets thrown into it, where like you just watch like 12 people get slaughtered, and like now you're next up, like you're gonna be shook.
Yes, there's so many contestants that went up against James during his run that if they had been up against anyone but James, they could have been and contenders, but they're up against James, like a once in a generation player,
right? I don't think. Well, I think that he sort of unlocked a lot of strategies that weren't being used up to his run. Traditionally, you start at the top of the board and work your way down. You don't hop around, and you don't start at the very bottom. A lot of players do that now. So I feel like in that way, he's changed the game considerably. Yeah,
definitely.
I'm also glad a woman beat him. The two biggest players in the history of Jeopardy were beat by women. I think that is so cool.
That is really cool. Emma was so good. She got so much hate for knocking James out, though. Oh my gosh!
It was disheartening how much hate she got.
So good.
Yeah, she was incredibly good. Yeah, and it was cool of him to leap to her defense. I think it was like on Twitter or Facebook, and good for everyone involved. Yeah, I want to hear about your career as a child actress.
Okay, yeah. So like I said before, like growing up in this area and growing up in LA and how I said my mom and my uncle both also did child acting, where it was kind of just like a given that was something I was just going to do. I mean, I was, I was cute and blonde. I'm blonde hair, blue eyed, little fresh faced tiny child, and blonde curly hair. I looked my hair got longer, but when my hair was short, it looked a little like Shirley Temple. I was just precious, and I don't know what happens, but I was really cute. And as you do when you're in Southern California and you're cute and blonde, you go become an actor. I was 7 years old. I don't remember how old I was. My very first gig was I was in an episode of Seinfeld. That was my very first TV appearance. I popped on as I played George Steinbrenner's granddaughter in the episode of season 8, I think, of Seinfeld, where George builds a pod under his desk to take a nap in, and then his boss traps him in his office, and he's stuck under his desk, and then and then he's like, his grandkids come in to visit, and then George calls Jerry to call in a bomb threat on the building. It's an episode could never ever be made now. It's the same episode where Kramer goes swimming in the East River. He goes for a swim in the East River and stumbles on a dead body, I think, at one point. It is a wild episode. But yeah, I played one of the grandkids, and that was my first TV appearance. I got to meet Jason Alexander. It was a whole thing. And from then on, my agent was the son of my mother's agent from when my mom was a child actor. So there was a lot of nepotism going on. And and it was just like a children's casting agency. It was just I did mostly extra work behind this, like in the background of a crowd scene or in a classroom where they needed to fill the room with a bunch of kids, or I did an episode of Beverly Hills 90210 where there was a kids soccer game going on in the background, and I played one of the soccer players. I did an episode of Baywatch where I played Gina Lee Nolan's character as a child in a flashback. That was really fun. And I did a whole bunch of random little stuff like that. Where
how did you balance?
I did an episode of Party of Five.
Okay.
And that was also a flashback. I was also playing a character in a flashback, which was weird. And as far as like doing school, I see where you're going with that. So one of the rules is I'm a member of the Screen Actors Guild, and as such protected by union rules. And union rules say for children on a film set, we have to be allotted a certain number of hours per day for completing schoolwork. So when I would get the call, they usually call me like the day before, 2 days before, and say, "Hey, are you available for such and such? Can you show up for a 6-day shoot in Pasadena for an episode of Malcolm in the Middle?" And I was like, "Yeah, of course. I'll go to Pasadena every day for 6 days." And my mom drove me around. She was really fun with that. But they would just call and say, "Can you go?" And I would go to my class, and I would go to my teacher and say, "I need my schoolwork for the next however many days." And they would hand me a bunch of worksheets and things to do and books to read. And then I'd show up on set and do that during our allotted school time. It was actually really easy. And if I did more of it, if I had dedicated myself and gone to real auditions or got myself like a principal role or a recurring role on a show, they would have tutors on set that are supposed to you don't just do the worksheet on your own. They sit there and try and help you walk through and teach you things and stuff like that. And a lot of the really famous child actors all have private tutors. They get homeschooled and then they learn with private teachers. It actually was really easy and super fun to do. I loved doing the schoolwork. I've always been the kind of kid, I learn best kind of on my own. And I've got a really good memory for things. Once I've read something that's been written down, I usually have stored it in my brain really well. It's not like a photographic memory, but if I read it, I've got it. And it's what made me pretty decent at trivia. It was easier when I was younger, but
it probably helps with learning lines as well.
It does. It absolutely does help with learning lines. I've always been pretty good at memorizing lines. I don't know how good I'd be now. I'm a little out of practice, but I was good at it as a kid. And so I would just read the textbook that I was supposed to read and do the worksheets. And then when it came to school, I'd go back to school and ace the test. And the teachers were like, all right, well, if you can pass the test, then you're fine. It doesn't matter how much school you missed.
Yeah, it appears you've learned this, so we're going to leave you alone now.
Yeah. And I was a good kid. I was always a good student and a like a well-behaved child. So it was pretty easy for everybody involved. And my mom found it fun. My mom has met some cool people on some of the sets that I've gone to. And she once took me. I did like a 5-day shoot. It was called the Forum at the time. I don't know what it's called now. Where I was playing in. It was a made-for-TV movie called When Billy Beat Bobby, about Billie Jean King and Bobby Riggs. And it was what's her name? Holly Hunter was in that. And my mom got to meet her, and they were just like chilling, just hanging out. And so my mom has really great stories coming out of that too. And she drove me to the Malcolm in the Middle of the set after she had a biopsy done she had like a mysterious lump on her tongue, and she had a biopsy done, and she had all these stitches in her tongue and everything. And she still drove me all the way to Pasadena every day for a week to do this film shoot so that I could go be on Malcolm in the Middle, so I could go meet my crush, Frankie Muniz, who I was obsessed with at the time. And I did get to meet him on the set, and he was really nice, really good guy.
I bet he was good. I feel like Frankie Muniz definitely like had his moment. He was number one for a long time.
Oh yeah. Oh, I was totally madly in love with him. I was a few years younger. I'm a few years younger than he is. So on the set though at the time, and this is where my downfall came, or the end of my career. Right around that time, it was like 2001, 2002. I went through a massive growth spurt. I was suddenly a good 5-6 inches taller than every other kid my age. I was 5'8" in the 12th when I was like 12 in like the 7th grade. I think it was like 5'8", almost 5. I'm 5'9" now. I slowed down. But yeah, I hit max height like really, really, really early. And
that just takes you right out of the running.
That takes you right out of the running. I don't know if you've noticed, but actors are really short.
Yes, they are. Yes, especially on TV.
They just are. Oh my gosh, they just are. And there are so many different reasons why this is the case, but also because I was doing so much background work and extra work. If they would just make a grand call, hey, send all of your 12-year-olds over, they'd send all of the 12-year-olds over, and there I am, a good like 5 or 6 inches taller than all other 12-year-olds. And I would stand out too much, and I was still super blonde. So like there she is, a shining beacon, trying to hide amongst the children in the back.
Right.
I stood out too much, way too much, and so they stopped calling. They were like, at one point I went for a call to go do a Chevy commercial or something, and the lady who was supposed to be playing my mom was shorter than I was. And so that was one of the last shoots that I ever did. They were like, this isn't gonna work.
Once you're too tall, that is the end. Yep,
that was the end. And I had no desire to go into modeling. I had no less than no desire to ever go into print or runway.
That's a whole different world that I would not wish on anybody.
And I could. There's no way that I could or would have done that. I had no desire to do it. And I stopped at 5'9". Like a lot of the runway models hit like 6 foot. And so I was too tall to act and too short to model. And I was done. I was tired. I was ready to quit.
Yeah, once you have those experiences, I mean, right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I had the experience, and it's the same thing. Like we were saying, like with Let's Make a Deal or whatever. That's Wade Brady. No one can take that away from me. I have tapes of myself all over the TV from the 90s, and that's it. Like that's my story, and that's what I get to just have with me. And I still pay my SAG dues every year. I'm still a member of the union, so I get to vote in the Screen Actors Guild Awards, and I get to get screeners of all the Oscar nominated and SAG Award nominated films every year.
So you're still in that world to the degree at which you're comfortable. Right. You can enjoy it on your own terms. Definitely.
Exactly.
So in the context of that, what made you want to do this podcast?
What made me want to do this podcast?
Right.
Well, it's a good question. I was trolling on Reddit, just hanging out, and I saw your post, and I really like the idea that you. I like the idea, and I seen it in a couple of places, but your post like caught my eye. You were like, I want to talk to people. You said you wanted to talk to somebody, and I listened to a couple of your episodes, and the idea of just wanting to have a conversation with somebody and to I don't know, just to, especially now, like right now where the world is weird and I've been trapped inside for a while, and the idea of a podcast or of somebody who's just like, let's just talk, let's just have a conversation, was that's what I wanted. That, and I have podcasts of my own, and I'm always trying to I'm like, oh, if I go guest on somebody else's podcast, or, you know, I can share my thoughts with other people, and, you know, that there's a little bit of it wasn't entirely altruistic. I was like, well, you know, maybe I can go plug my own show on somebody else's
wasn't
show, but at the same time,
I understand. No, it's okay. That's okay. Everybody who's done this show has their own podcast.
No, because podcasting is a community, and that's the part of it I like the most, is that the idea of doing a podcast with somebody, or doing a podcast that's about talking to people. And yeah, you posted on the podcast subreddit for that, you know, for that exact reason. And because I think a big draw of this medium and what gets people interested in making podcasts is the same thing that your reasons were the same as mine. Like, we want to make something and share it with somebody, even if nobody's listening. Even, you know, I have fewer downloads on my podcast than I'd like, but even one download is enough to make me go like, I did something. I made something that somebody.
Oh yeah. Oh man. The sense of accomplishment that I feel from making a schedule for myself and sticking to it and releasing things on a consistent basis, that is part of the experience in this field that I will never lose. Like I'll always feel accomplished for having done that.
Exactly. And that is, I think, tied to the conversation we were having earlier about building something that's your own. When I say I want to be proud of the home that I own, or I want to, you know, build my own garden, cultivate my own garden, I think was the quote I was looking for earlier from Candide. And to do something that's mine, that I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna make it, and it's mine. But this podcasting comes with it a huge community of people who are also minded the same way. So when I see somebody who's like, I'm hosting a podcast and I want to have a conversation with you, and I say, well, thank you. I also want to have a conversation with you. I want to know about other people's podcasts and other people's work, and the community that like this medium has cultivated, and the friends that I've made on Twitter, other podcasters, even if we don't listen to each other's shows, or, you know, it's still like we're doing something. We're being creative in a way that lets us express ourselves, and that is
podcasters have to stick together
wholeheartedly.
Definitely.
Exactly.
We all
something
uplift
I miss
each other.
so much about being in the acting circles, or being, you know, when I was in high school, I was in competitive show choir. I used to dance and sing like on Glee. Competitively, and I did plays and musicals and all of that, and part of what I miss about that world and acting and all of that is building something. It's creating something and expressing myself creatively in a way that speaks to somebody. And then I just wasn't doing it anymore. I wasn't making anything. I was kind of flirting with the idea of being a writer. But I didn't have, no ideas were coming to me, and I was trying to work alone, and I was like, I'm going to write the next great American novel by myself in this corner of this library. And that's just not how I operate. I like to talk to people, and I'm a people person and a team player. And I wanted to like build something with somebody. And that's my co-host is my very, very best friend in the whole entire world. He's Buddy Duquesne, the one who's good at anagrams. We make podcasts together because if I'm going to be creative, I have this partner that I can be creative with and build something. And that's
so important. It's so important to have somebody on your side that you could, it's so important. I mean, I do this by myself, but I've had the idea for a long time. So I feel a huge sense of accomplishment, making it real, but it's so important to have somebody on your side that you could bounce things off of. Tell me about, I want to hear quickly about your podcast, because my wife is home, so now I have salmon to make. So
ooh, yay.
I'm gonna go knock that out, but I want you to tell me about your podcast and give me the URLs and everything, all the information.
Sure. Okay. So I host I have two podcasts technically, but the one that's like our baby is called Those Happy Places. It's a tagline, the podcast that treats theme parks, rides, and attractions like literature. So it's a podcast about theme parks, Disneyland, Universal Studios, etc., and the rides therein, and like what makes those rides and those attractions and that like experience so important, like culturally and emotionally to us. So much design work and so much attention gets paid when building these rides that we only experience for like 30 seconds. And so we break down rides and experiences like that into pieces and examine them and give them the treatment that they deserve. Like somebody would watch a movie and spend an hour on a podcast talking about the movie. We spend an hour talking about the Haunted Mansion or Pirates of the Caribbean or the new Harry Potter world or I say new, but God, it's like 10 years old at this point. Harry Potter world at Universal Studios and like the rides there. And so, yeah, it's about giving rides the literary treatment. And it's so fun.
I love it. That's a fun idea.
And that is, it's so much fun to make. And that's thosehappyplaces.com is where that is. That's available almost everywhere podcasts are found, except Spotify, because I'm having a hard time making Squarespace and Spotify pay attention to each other. But soon,
they do not play nicely with each other. Yes,
maybe.
I hope so. I hope soon.
But I'm working on it. And I do another show called Rogue Fun, a podcast story, which is where once a month, every month for the last couple of years, we've been watching Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and podcasting about it. We've been breaking the movie down into like 10-minute segments and talking about it and analyzing the characters and the score and the story and everything. It's my favorite Star Wars movie. And so it's been a blast doing that.
Nice. That's a good deep dive. I love it.
That one doesn't have it's so much fun. And that one doesn't have a website, but we're on Twitter, at Rogue Fun Pod is the one for that one.
There you go. Everyone go check it out.
That I think is all I have to plug.
Well, Alice, this has been so much fun. I'm glad you got to plug everything because everybody, I want everyone to plug whatever they have. I please just like do it. This was a lot of fun.
This was really fun. Thank you so much for contacting me and setting this up. Like I really feel like I needed this. This was so much fun.
I'm glad to hear that.
And I'm gonna tweet you out to everybody that I know. As soon as when the episode drops, I'll be sharing it with everybody because that's what we do, right? That's what
we have to. Podcasters got to stick together. Absolutely,
exactly.
And you will be the first. You will be the first one to get a link to this once it's up.
Yay!
Alice, thank you so much. Stay safe at work. Good luck with everything. Good luck in your art. Good luck in everything that you're doing. I'm really glad we're not strangers anymore. And I hope to talk soon. Absolutely. Thank you.
All
right, Alice.
Safe and have
you
fun.
As well. All right. You have a good night.
Good night.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Stranger Than Christian was produced, recorded, and edited by me, Christian Carrion, here in beautiful downtown Lancaster City, Pennsylvania. For more information on the show, to listen to past episodes, or to send me an email, visit strangerthanchristian.com. Thank you so much for listening. Tune in next time to another episode of Stranger Than Christian. Bye-bye. Tell us about yourself. Conversations with Game Show Contestants is produced in partnership with the Strong National Museum of Play in Rochester, New York. one of the largest history museums in the United States, and one of the leading museums serving families with highly interactive exhibits and programs. Since 1968, the Strong Museum has been dedicated to exploring the ways in which play encourages learning, creativity, and discovery, and how it illuminates cultural history. And their National Archives of Game Show History. Founded by industry veterans Bob Bowden and Howard Blumenthal, the archive is home to thousands of artifacts representing over 80 years of broadcasting, including props, set designs, video interviews with game show professionals, and other iconic elements from the history of television at play. For more information about the National Archives of Game Show History or the Strong National Museum of Play, visit museumofplay.org or call area code 585-263-2700.